Welcome back to Catapult, where we help you catapult your business one question at a time. I've got an awesome guest with us today, Miss Maura from our team. She's one of our expert business advisors. I'll tell you a little bit about her background here in a moment, but we're going to talk about a really important question that Maura and I and some of our other advisors, we face all the time when we sit down with the different business owners we get to work with, on a daily basis. And the question is how do you inspire change while still maintaining a high morale? How do you inspire change while still maintaining a high morale? Now, Maura's got a lot of experience working with business owners through this process and really increasing that EQ and those leadership chops. But before I bring her on here and we start to, divulge, let me share a little bit about Maura's background. So about 30 clients have been impacted since Maura came and joined. So she's worked with about 30 businesses since March of 2020 when she first joined Cultivate. But she's got a pretty cool story from before she got here in her entrepreneurial journey. And so she actually, before this, had built up a 7-figure multi-location yoga studio with about 40 plus employees. So she's no stranger to leadership, building the right systems, and really being able to figure out how to scale an organization. So Maura, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you. And what an awesome topic. I think we both can agree quite a few business owners, at least the ones we get to work with that are trying to grow and scale their organization fairly quickly, they get hit with this kind of, change management, that dirty word, right? Like, how do you actually change within an organization and get people to follow you? Just curious, like, why do you think this is such an important conversation? Why is this question so important to get asked by business owners of how do I keep inspiring that change, but keep my morale high?
I mean, I think entrepreneurs, it's a hard word to say, entrepreneurs are naturally wired to have these visions, to want to change, to grow. If we're not growing, we're kind of dying, right? So to keep growing our organization, there has to be little pivots, little changes. I'm a firm believer to inspire, not to lead with fear, but to lead with inspiration. How do you do that when you've got a team behind you? It's really important.
Well, I think one of the things that really stands out to me too is that if, business owners often are idea generators, right? Like they like to generate a ton of ideas. And I think sometimes they struggle of actually getting from ideas to implementation. Mm-hmm. I know you and I have talked about that before, but I think the piece that really stands out to me is that you mentioned if you're not growing, you're dying. A lot of times when we meet with our business owners, when we're helping advise them through this growth, we see a lot of business owners come to us that are on a treadmill. Mm-hmm. And our definition of that, right, Maura, is that we view it as like you're just running in place. So you might be working a ton, but you're really, working in the business. You're not working on it. You're not necessarily in control of the scale or the growth of the company. And so I love what you said there. It's like if you're not growing, you're dying. I think growth is a good thing. Change can be a good thing, but it also can be abused. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen where that's happened. Any thoughts on just kind of what you've seen from some of the business owners you've worked with, and how do you approach those business owners to help advise them to not over abuse the amount of change they take on?
Yeah, I mean, I always get excited when there's something that is brought to me from the business owners. Like, I think we should move in this direction. And I'm like, if I agree with them, I'm like, yes, let's do that. Now let's pause. How many times have we brought a new change to the organization in the last year, months, whatever it is? If it's very frequent, these pivots, you can get whiplash as an employee. I always put myself in the mind of like, how's your team going to deal with this change? And then how big is this change? Is it a small change? Yeah, let's feather in these little changes as we go. If it's a big, massive meatball or matzo ball, like, let's eat that one bite at a time. How are we going to do that? So, the frequency, the depth of the change, the scope of the change, all of these things, I consider it again, from the lens of the employee, because ultimately, you need the help of your team to help implement this change to see it bear its fruits.
Well, Maura, I think that was a masterclass, right, of the value of an advisor has to go, great, you have this idea, you want to make this change. I got to slow you down and we got to process through this. You kind of just gave a nice framework for that. But even before you get to that framework, Maura, when you say that, it makes me think about something I commonly see with the owners I've worked with is that a common trait is that they don't always have a ton of patience. I actually believe that's really what leads to owners, thriving or being more successful than others owners, is it can sometimes be tied to how much patience an owner has. I don't have a ton of patience. Right, I've had to train myself how to have patience as an owner. A lot of business owners we work with and clients we've had don't necessarily have that patience. So it's hard, right? It's hard for as business owners to have this idea. And when you first started the business, before you maybe got a little bit of scale, it was a lot of times owner operators or only a few employees. You could, you were in a motorboat and you could just whip it around and turn. Everybody would come with you. So I think, there's two factors you have to tie into from what you said is, well, check your patience at the door. Every time you have to almost train yourself. I'm thinking about doing a change. I have to go through this framework. I have to slow down before I implement. But then the other piece that comes to mind is, what is the size of your company? And a really good analogy I know that I use commonly is go, look, are you in a motorboat? Are you in a sales boat? Or are you in a huge cruise ship? Because if you've grown this organization, you can't just whip the cruise ship. You'll capsize, right? Got to go at the right pace. And I think we always want to change everything. And I love what you just said about, well, actually, maybe we should bite this off little by little. Maybe this quarter we're going to implement this. Let's see how that goes. And now this. So when you do that with a client, what goes into trying to break that down? Like, if you could think of an example or just, what's kind of your strategy or how do you approach change with your clients to help them work through this, to figure out, because I imagine a lot of business owners, at least I've seen this, they struggle to sometimes break down the change. It's kind of like an all or nothing when they first present it to us.
When I work with my clients, I use a lot of my own personal experience in my own business or personal life. So I remember we at the yoga studios, we switched systems, CRM systems. And so the first process or the reason why was like, we don't like that anymore. It's expensive. The customer service is crap. It's slow. All these reasons why we wanted to be haters.
All the symptoms of why you had to change.
Right. So we gotta get away from there. Where are we going to go? Oh, okay. Let's explore other options. So explore other options. And I kind of led that charge. And I'm like, okay, we got our new system. This is going to be the new shiny object. I love it. Great user experience on both the back end, the front end, all of these things. So there was that, but then there's also like, okay, I'm not running the yoga studios all by myself. I got to get the team on board. Right. So like, and layers of the team. So let's get the leadership team. What do you guys think? I did this research.
Yeah. What order? That's important, right? You have to kind of go either top down, right? To kind of go order by order so everybody's bought in before they go to the next level. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and that was kind of the hardest part, was getting the leadership buy-in. But that's ultimately it. If they're not bought in, I'm the villain. I don't want to be a villain. So we got the buy-in. And then we're like, yeah, this is going to be great. It's so much better because of course they present it as being so much better. Right. And then we share it with the rest of the team. But, the switch, the migration, that is like the, quintessential, like ripping off a Band-Aid, that you can't really, there's a little bit of overlap, but
behaviors change, habits change, patterns have to change.
And you have to learn
like
a whole new system. And some people, like in this example, they're not really, some people don't know technology, or some people don't know, like that's not their jam. So, so like getting the buy-in, but then ultimately like we made the switch, and then it was like, well, wait, this isn't the perfect unicorn. I don't like the system anymore. So like started to become a problem again. So, I learned from that example because I was like, well, what else could I have done? And I gave options too, like, do we want to go back? We could also go back, or we could learn that nothing's going to be perfect and really learn to adapt and then be a champion of this new system so that everybody gets bought in, because toxicity stinks from the top down.
Are you getting the advice you need for your business from this episode? Do you want to get more than just one question answered and have it customized to you and your business? Well, Cultivate Advisors works one-on-one with thousands of business owners every day. Let them help you scale your business today. Don't just listen to this episode. Take action and go to cultivateadvisors.com to see which advisor you get matched with and receive a free 2-hour business assessment on how you could scale your business to the next level. Act now at cultivateadvisors.com.
What I love is that your example, this bite-off process that we're talking about, what I love about it is you're really depicting these two very different ways you can go at it. Of course, you have to slow down. Of course, you have to go get buy-in. But the first example is like, we just roll it out. We roll it out to everybody, and then we go, oh no. Versus keep the other system in place, roll it out with a few people, learn the pain points, learn what didn't go well, take that pilot, then go to the next level. And so I think the bite off isn't just slowing down to hit each step of change. It's also about slowing down to go, do we have to bite it off with everyone for the change? Can we change it with a few select individuals and use that to help tell us so our learning curve isn't as steep and we don't get hit with as much whiplash? I love that word that you used earlier, because change is tough, right? Like if you think about the process of change, you first, you've started to allude to some of these. The first step is you have to be very clear on what the change is and what will the impact be and why is this important. And if that's not clearly articulated, you can't move forward with change, right? So step one, you've got to slow down and write that down. Step two is the same process I had that you shared, buy-in. You've got to go get buy-in. You practically have to make it their idea. You know this best, Maura. Like if it's not their idea, because if you think about it, right, for business owners listening in, I constantly feel this way. It's like I can come out all day and share all my ideas and all my grand visions. You were talking about, owners do that all the time. I'm guilty as charged. I know most owners listening today are guilty as charged. But what happens is that we get in our heads, how's it going to work? But the reality is that the owners have the highest incentive to have the change made in the organization, right? Profits, outputs, growth, enterprise value. There's a lot of reasons why an owner would be open to a change. Employees, not as much, right? There's not as much buy-in to employees. And the reason why is because it's like, wait, you're going to make me work more in the short term. You're going to add short-term pain on me. So just to tie into why you're speaking to that buy-in, I just wanted to slow that down for some of the folks listening in. Once you get past buy-in, now you've got to create an implementation plan, because you need to collaborate with your team on how that's going to be implemented. And that's where you make these decisions around frequency and what's the timetable, what's the roadmap, and you didn't say this word, but I'm going to put words in your mouth. You started talking about expectations around the idea in this example that you just gave, Maura, right? Around the theme of, at the end, this isn't going to be perfect. We don't sell this as perfection. We sell this as we're solving these few problems. I'm sure we'll uncover some more. But right now we're maybe at like a 40% to perfection, and we're trying to move to 60% perfection. And this is what the business can afford. And this is, what we're going to take on. And so once the expectations and the implementation plan is put in place, then you get to implementation. And I think that's where owners have to realize that it's okay to slow down or speed up an implementation plan based on the feedback from your team. And that's how you can keep them happy and excited and in pursuit. And you have to keep doubling down and sharing the impact and the reason for the change, because you know how this works. 2 weeks in, everybody's forgot about it already, unless you're the owner driving the change. You'll never forget it, but your teams will, because they're back in their day to day. I don't know. Does that resonate for you? Does that process kind of align with what you do with your clients?
100%. I would add in there too. It's like, it's not just about the change and how it affects the business and productivity and all of the things overall, whatever it is affecting, right? Profitability, hopefully. But it's also like about the people, and just everybody deals with change differently, and adapting the leadership style to, treating people like people, and just like noticing that sometimes, Susie embraces change. Bobby, not so much. he's stuck in his ways, and it's
Mhm.
like, it's all okay. There's no good or bad. It's just like, let's speak to these individuals, like, and like you said, like, have them sell themselves on it. I mean, that's a superpower.
Well, what I love about what you just shared too is, so you're saying, I haven't done this with my clients, but I love this. When you're working through change, a lot of times what you would encourage is to actually have them, not just when they're doing that process of like, well, what's the impact of this, but it's not to the business, but also to the people. And what I love is you're not saying like, let's just divide up by departments or leaders or not leaders by an org chart. You're saying, whoa, whoa. A lot of people listening in right now probably have a business that's 100 employees or less, 50 employees or less. With 50 employees or less, you can list every employee. You can go have a meeting with their leader and go, how good are they at change? Where do they thrive with change? Where are they not? Or do they just like things same old, same o? And I love that. I did used to, it reminds me of one technique I've used in the past, very simple, just a green, yellow, red. Think of like early adopters, green. This person's going to be really easy. Highlight them green on a spreadsheet. This is going to be easy. Let's do our focus group or our share group with all the greens first. So everybody's really
Right.
excited.
Right.
And we get all the value add that they pull that they're excited about. Now let's go look at the yellows, the people that I think are going to be cautious, but we know they're going to come around, right? And so it's like, let's go slow down and approach that conversation different on the rollout by asking more questions, but being ready to share some of the things that the green folks have shared of the value and that these other people are excited. So they kind of get on the bandwagon. And then you've got your reds, which are like, oh gosh, I hope they don't leave over this.
Right.
I think it's going to really frustrate them. They really struggle with this, right? And then it's your ability to hit them last to go, you got to, it might take 30 minutes to roll out the shift to the greens, an hour to roll out to the yellows. It might take you 2 hours for every red.
Right.
Because they're going to need more time to process. I love that. That's genius because it allows the owner, once you do it once with your team, you kind of know, right? If you haven't changed over staff a bunch, but you kind of know then what you're up against.
Well, and what I also like about the green, yellow, red is, as a leader, well, I don't know about you, Casey, but most of us, there's a little bit of fear, like, yeah, I don't want everybody to jump ship, right? Like, are they gonna hate me for this change? Maybe I'm being a little dramatic there, but like, as a leader, when you're implementing it to the greens, you as a leader build that confidence. You're like, oh, I got their buy-in. Okay, this is going well. I'm going to move to the iffies, but I've got some ammunition from the greens. Like, they've already sold themselves. I'm going to use that. So
build the owner's confidence
in the leader as well.
Yes. No, definitely. I love that you're giving me a hard time because you're not sure if I have fear of everybody leaving in Cultivate. We've obviously made a bunch of changes. We love change. It's one of the keys to our growth rate. I know you know that. But no, I think every owner, including myself, has those fears of when you're going through. It's like, whoa.
I like that.
Yeah, well, what's going to happen, right? But again, like, if you're the one driving, it depends on the size of your organization. But if you have an executive leadership team like we have at Cultivate, just due to our scale, right? I have to go get my team bought in, my direct reports, and they're actually the ones that go deliver the change. And it doesn't mean that I don't go get involved to help right the ship or galvanize people to the next place. But what you've got me thinking about now, that I know I've seen a lot of owners that we work with struggle with when it comes to implementing change, they celebrate the victory too early. Right. There was you had an underbelly tone of some of that when you were just sharing. So it brought me full circle. And I know you can agree to that just based on your reaction there. There is this reality that people celebrate once people get the buy-in. And that's just an early step in the process. Like, yeah, even when you've implemented, you can't really celebrate yet. You can't actually celebrate until the results change that you wanted to see, the metrics or the movement from the change being created, right? So change creates some type of action, which then creates some type of result. It's the result that changes that you celebrate accountability around. And I think as an owner, you're never going to bat 100% on your changes.
Right.
You're never going to. The higher the percentage, sure, the better you're going to be, but it's a balance, right? Because as an owner, well, I bat 90%. It's like, yeah, but you've changed like one thing a year. Like you're very cautious. So it's like finding this perfect balance as an owner. And I know I can struggle with this sometimes myself. It's like, all right, I want to change like 30 things this year. I need to change like these 7. These 3, I know they have to change. These 2, like probably pretty important to change, but maybe not. And then the next 2 are like, these are big risks, but boy, if they work out, it's going to crush. And so if I can bat 70%, 75%, I'm good. But what does that mean, right, Maura? That means 25% of the time, I'm wrong. How have you seen owners handle that? Like, how have you seen owners handle when they're wrong? Because I feel like this is also just as important when a change doesn't go well, how the owner behaves. So I would just love to hear your insight with all the leadership development.
I think what you're speaking to, is like the Goldilocks, like what's the right amount, right? Like not too much, not too little, just right.
Porridge, this much porridge, or this much porridge.
When they get it wrong, wrong is so strong, right? It's like, is it all or nothing? And I guess I don't really personally think in terms of all or nothing, right, wrong.
It's not black and white. It's gray then, in your mind.
White, right? So it's like, okay, what did we learn? I always kind of talk about like, maybe that didn't go as well as we thought it did. Let's talk about like, what did right? What went well? What did we learn from it? Meaning, i.e., what didn't go so right? And then there's always something to learn from that to help us build upon like the next time we try to implement something. And whether it's, a theme of change in itself, like maybe we should have slowed that down or set up the expectations that it's going to be bumpy. I think we eliminate that stuff. Well, I'll speak for myself. I've noticed that sometimes we don't set up those expectations that it's like, this isn't going to be a clean fix, whatever the change is. Right. It's going to be bumpy.
The world will not turn perfect.
Yeah. So, and allowing for that grace that like, you might hate this at the beginning, but just give it a try, like kind of that little nudge, and then, that gives permission. And it also, gives this flexibility that like, it's not an all or nothing slam dunk, to use your analogy of baseball.
Well, I love that I love the call out.
That's like basketball. That shows you how much I know about sports.
Sports may not be your passion. Yoga might be, but that's okay. No one's judging you on that, Maura. You're brilliant when it comes to growing businesses, so all is forgiven.
Thanks for tuning in to Catapult Your Business, where Cultivate Advisors is helping you catapult your business one question at a time. Are you running your business, or is your business running you? At Cultivate Advisors, they'll match you with an expert advisor and do a free 2-hour deep dive for your business. This will give you the clarity you need on how to get your business to the next level. Cultivate has worked with thousands of businesses. What do you have to lose? So head over to cultivateadvisors.com and sign up for your free 2-hour session.
I think what I like about the gray versus black and white is that, again, owners celebrate. And again, the question we're trying to solve today, right, when we help our clients is how do they inspire change, create innovation, get people open to change, but then also keep that morale high so it doesn't become a distraction, ultimately become a detriment to the organization. Because we've seen people change too many things, whiplash their people, turn too fast. It could take businesses out depending on the size or scope of the change. By setting expectations on being gray versus black and white, and that we're going to win no matter what is important. I'll throw one other one that I'm trying to always do, and we've talked a little bit about it, but just to make it very ingrained and clear for everybody listening in today, you've got to slow down. And when you're doing that buy-in process, you cannot come to the buy-in process with your teams and say, this is what we're doing. You have to come at it and say, we are exploring doing, even if you're at the 99% yard line trying to get into a touchdown. I did use a proper football reference there. But I'm just giving you a hard time now. But if you're at the 99% line and you're trying to get over that goal post, right? Or that goal line, if you're trying to make that a reality, you still have to come with the openness that maybe there's a different idea or a different way to solve that problem. Because you need to not just get by and like, yeah, let's try it. You actually need to do it like, we are all making a decision that we are going to move forward with this. We all agree. This is the option that we think is best, and here's why. And we've given time to process through that. that ultimately now, if it does not go well, we've all had them not go well. And I'll say it was a failure. I won't use black and white, but it doesn't go well. It doesn't solve what we thought it would solve. It ends up being a lot of time, or we had a bad implementation plan. All these things can happen. You have the ability to collaborate with your team, and you have to, as an owner, come forward and say, I know that I spearheaded this. You have to still take responsibility and go, we're not going to bat 100%. I agree we need to make a shift. Let's get everybody back in the room and explore the other options. And I thank everybody for having the right mindset to know we all decided to go this route, but it didn't quite work out. And that takes a lot of EQ in a leader, right? To get through that, to have that open awareness and acknowledge and validate how people might be feeling, and to not let them feel as a failure. Because if you don't do this step, when you go to make a future change, you'll really struggle.
Yeah. And I mean, totally. You hit the nail on the head. I think we all have this intrinsic need to be seen, feel heard, and if it's a constant, like, we're doing this, I mean, it's like, feel beat up. I mean, employees, team members feel beat up. But when you're able to say, like,
Yes.
We're exploring this, I want to hear what you have to say, like, tell me what you think. It's not going to be a home run. Another sports reference there, that was a baseball analogy, but like, to have them feel seen and heard, to hit your vision with the change. I mean, that's beautiful. That's glorious, right? That's what we're trying to achieve.
Well, Maura, it's been such a pleasure to slow down and talk. This is obviously an unbelievably important topic, right? People come and work with Cultivate because they want to grow and scale their business, and scaling does not always mean just, bigger revenues, bigger profits. It can mean work-life balance. It can mean so many different things, less owner dependency, et cetera, et cetera. But what we do know is that creating growth, creating scale usually requires a lot of change, a lot of changes to the business, and a lot of approach. So we are constantly helping business owners move through that change and learn how to implement a culture of change. So if you're listening in and going, gosh, I really want to start to grow and scale the company, well, do a quick exercise. Write down all the changes you've made this year. Are you making enough changes to actually create the growth and scale? And if it's because you're fearful of the change, well, we need to skill you up on how to approach change inside your culture. If it's because you might be doing too many changes, right? The other side of the spectrum. Well, that's also not okay. You're crushing your employees. It could be a big reason why you're maybe having higher employee attrition, or, other problems happening in the business. It could be a true root of your business. There's a healthy balance. So make sure you're changing enough, but not too much, and that you've got the right culture. And I'll tell you right now, it's a lot easier when you have somebody like Maura overseeing that and helping you slow down and keep everybody's positions in mind of how it'll affect or change them. So Maura, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing your wisdom. We really appreciated it. And for those listening in that maybe want to connect with Maura or have a meeting with Maura to learn more how she can help advise the business, check her out on our website, and we'll include some additional contact information below in the podcast. And we appreciate you listening in today. Maura, any final words or advice as people go on to lead change within their organization?
Oh gosh, any final words of advice? Lead with your heart and continue to get, the help and support that you need from others if you don't feel confident in those areas, so that you can continue to get better and more confident, and then ultimately crush it.
All right. Well said. Crush it. All right, Maura, thanks so much. And again, we'll see everybody on the next Catapult Your Business, where we help you take your business to the next level, one question at a time. That's all.